Great. So now that we understand how to open up ZBrush for the first time, loading a project, loading a tool, let's take a look at the interface. Now, ZBrush refers to these things as specific names. I just find it easier just to say that this bar here at the top is just a top toolbar. It's referred to something similar, but for some reason I've always referred to this as the top toolbar. And on the left here, this is the left toolbar. On the right is the right toolbar. So these sort of vertical menus and this horizontal menu here, they're just toolbars. I think ZBrush refers to them as tool shelves. So this is the top tool shelf, the left tool shelf, and the right tool shelf. I just say top toolbar, left toolbar, right toolbar. Now, these things here, these are referred to as palettes. So we have a tool palette here. And then within the tool palette, you have sub palettes, which are all these listed sort of names here. So we have a sub tool palette. We have a geometry palette, or sub palette in this case, and so on. The menu bar at the top here, it's not really so much of a menu bar, but more of a collection of palettes. So we have the render palette, we have the stroke palette, the texture palette, and so on. So everything is pretty much nested in a palette. On the left here, you have this sort of vertical bar about halfway. If I open this up by double clicking on this, you'll see that I have another section on the left here. And by default, we have the brush palette. Now, depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I want to have more than one palette in view. So let's say I'm doing some rendering. I might open up the render palette, hover over this little icon here, and just left click and drag. And I can dock that palette anywhere I want. Likewise, if I want to look at the lighting in my scene or work with the lighting in my scene, which is something that you would typically do when rendering something out. So I'll open up the light palette, hover over this little icon here, and just, let's say, drag that to the other side. So now I can see my light palette and also my render palette. Let's see. So this main part here, which is probably the most important part, this is just our canvas, right? So this little thin square line around that is our margin, and that's fairly important when it comes to navigating, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just note that when you see this margin on the canvas, we're in a sculpting mode. We can sort of start sculpting. On the left and right here, we have these sort of little helpers. We have the silhouette view. We can left click and drag on this to make that larger. Some people find this distracting, but I quite like it because you can see the silhouette of your model instantly. Before, what you had to do was change the color of your sphere, and it was kind of annoying to do that. But now you can sort of see this straight away, which is quite nice. And then on the right here, we have this little head, and this just helps us orient ourselves in 3D space. So this is a perfect example here. Right now, I have a sphere in my 3D space, and it's kind of hard to know which direction I'm facing. This little head here just helps with that. So let's say I just rotate a little bit. It looks like nothing has changed on my canvas, though I've actually rotated this 90 degrees essentially. So that's what that is there for. Some people don't like these two things here. You can get rid of them. I think they're in preferences. So in the preference palette, the cam view, you can turn that off. And the thumbnail, you can turn that off as well. I think it's that one and that one. Great. I do like to have them on though, so I'm going to keep them on.